And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a very, very special episode of Candid Conversations about network marketing. With me, I'm BK, and with, of course, as usual, the other end, Dr. Wayne. Hi, Dr. Wayne.
Hi, BK. Hi, everyone. How's everyone going? Hopefully well.
Yeah, so this is a very, very special episode because we have gone live to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. For the very first time. We have been doing this for a while, right, Doc? But they have been recorded episodes, and then we then publish them to the various websites. But today we are doing something very different. We are actually going live, really, really live right now. If you're hearing us now, is we are live.
Isn't it good? Isn't it good? It's happening.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you want to take the listeners back to why we started doing this.
Yeah, so this has been a journey of, I'd say, conversations that BK and I have had for probably about 18 months. And the reason this is relevant is we've then called it the Candid Conversations about the network marketing entrepreneur. So literally, it's just discussions that BK and I have about the network marketing entrepreneur, the person who wants to now become a network marketer in allowing their business to grow to another level. And the reason we started off by saying that it's taken us 18 months to do it is because sometimes when you want to do something, it can take a little bit of time, and we understand that. And the major theme here as well is that we understand that we're not perfect. We do the best we can, it's then um, and taking all the information that BK and myself has and then delivering it in each episode the best we can in a particular topic. And the topics that we like to talk about is mindset. And then from there, we've talked about in the past lead generation, and then basically how to automate things, and also even looking at how to close the back door in terms of how to allow your associates to then stay on auto ship, for example. So these are some of the topics we've spoken about in the past, and moving forward, I think because this one's live, we'd like to be like this one to be a lot very special, and we're talking about what I've heard a lot in the last couple of weeks is the specifics of we are definitely, because of what's going on at present, we are definitely moving into a new era. We had the industrial age, we had the information age, and now we're moving into what many are saying in the entrepreneurial age. And now we have to think like we are network marketers, yes, but now we need to understand what this word entrepreneur means as well. So it's now also understanding that anything that is already being said is already old, and what we need to do is move into the new. So that's one of the most important themes that Candid Conversation between BK and myself is all about. Yeah.
I think the word entrepreneur, like we talked about it a little bit just now before we got started, is quite a loaded term, right, Dr. Wayne? Yeah, I mean, when we hear the word entrepreneur, a lot of times, names like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and even names like that pop up to mind. People who are building massive in businesses or industries, that kind of idea. But to me, and we talked about this in another episode before, I think we gave a simple definition. An entrepreneur is simply somebody who is there to solve problems for others and provide value, and also, of course, for themselves, right? That would be an easy way to think about it. And we think about what the industry that we both love and we are in, network marketing. I think we fit the bill very well. We are solving problems. It could be health challenges for people. It could be wealth challenges for people, but definitely we are there to provide a solution for people, and definitely qualify to be termed as an entrepreneur.
Yes, most definitely. And whether it be health or whether it be wealth, and they're the two most pressing challenges that we have as humans. And the major theme is that, unfortunately, or fortunately, once you know it, fortunately, when you're aware that the mind, basically the bit that's between our ears, the 6 inches between our ears, basically controls everything. And when you really understand also that it doesn't matter what happens outside, it's our interpretation of outside that is the important. So if our interpretation of the outside is quite negative, what happens then at a genetic level? So a gene now can actually express itself 3,000 different ways. It does this quite quickly. And if we have a positive thought that is now influencing us because of, say, for example, you're now listening to what's happening around the news today with the coronavirus and the shutdown and all the rest of it. And now you go into a positive mode because now you can see that the internet is something that is going to actually drive a lot more entrepreneurs. People are going to be looking more on the net. They're going to be so much more positive in that line. If you think that way, now it's going to express these genes in a positive way. So therefore, we're going to end up feeling better, being better. Our health is going to be great. But then, unfortunately, then we've got the other person who, for whatever reason, and I'll talk about this a little bit after I finish this, for whatever reason, they have now the negative reaction to what's going on now. And that will then hit the genes, and then the genes will then go, well, you know, I think I'm going to definitely express myself, not think, it's going to definitely express myself in a negative way. And then if you look at, for example, these emotions, they all then have a frequency. So our health frequency should be between about 62 and 72 megahertz. And when you're looking at serious disease and cancers, and that is below 40 megahertz. And when you look at some of these negative emotions like shame and grief and these type of things, they've got really low numbers in terms of the megahertz. So if we have something that's happening here and now our interpretation of that reality is in the negative, it will then unfortunately now hit the gene and will then express it negatively in our body. However, if we can look at something in another way and go, well, what are the opportunities? And this is the fantastic thing about where we are today with regards to the internet. Now, if all this happened 20 years ago, imagine how worse it would have been. Just think of that. I want every listener to just really contemplate that. We wouldn't have been able to be on the net to basically talk to our family. You wouldn't have Skype, you wouldn't have Zoom, you would have none of that. So we're in such a great space where we are now because we can do this. We can be on the internet, we can talk to family. Like I even 2 weeks ago of course, my mum doesn't know anything about Skype, but the nurse has got it all ready. We walked in there and surprised mum, and we had a Skype call. So 20 years ago, we didn't have this infrastructure. Today, we've got this infrastructure. Now we can actually move it forward. And just looking at the positive and the negative, like if you're looking at abundance and you're looking at being able to generate wealth, that is a frequency of over 300 megahertz. If you get it up to 500 megahertz, miracles start to happen. You'll be starting to wonder, where's all the money been hiding? I know what's changed, because what has changed is your actual frequency of interpretation of the world. And we spoke about this before, and I remember I mentioned I'll come back to it. And the interesting thing is I'll talk about it from a couple of ways. We have spoken about this in the past, but because this is live, I just love to go over it again.
Please do.
But one of the interesting phenomena, if we listen to Western medicine and ancient medicine has been saying for thousands of years that there is only one cause to disharmony, one cause to disease, one cause to the negative realization or reactions within our being, okay, whether that be health or wealth or relationships. And the words, I just want you to listen to the words. The words give empowerment. The words give responsibility. And it's known as the mistake of the intellect. So somehow our mistake has come into our mind, and now we're living out that mistake. Western medicine calls it, which unfortunately is a more negative way of thinking of it, but this is what most people have now heard, is that our subconscious is basically being pre-programmed prior to the age of 7. Now, what that does, it basically now can, if you listen to those words, it can now actually cast blame. It was someone else's fault, so to speak. But when you listen to ancient medicine, it's a mistake of the intellect. It's irrelevant where it comes from. It's a learning, it's an experience that we now to understand. And unfortunately, many times, and we know this in network marketing, you can't change someone. If they don't want to be a network marketer, you can't change them. If someone only runs a network marketing business at 30%, you can't change that. If they only want to run it part-time, you can't change that. Only they can. And once they can understand, and this is what this is all about, that's why we're doing this. We're trying to get concepts to people, especially network marketers. And I love the one that you say about simple. If you could just say that one again for us, BK. Network marketing is, I love that one that you say all the time.
It's like if you want to be a professional boxer, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
So sometimes when we come into the industry, network marketing is like if you want to be a professional boxer, but you don't want to be you don't want to be hit or punched in the lips, which is not possible. So we kind of need to get into the trenches, right? That's basically what we are trying to talk about here.
Yes. Once we realize certain things, say for example, even today, hopefully you've understood that if we come from and some of these things are triggered and we don't know they're being triggered, but if we're coming from a negative aspect of a perception of your reality, unfortunately, it drives so many other negative things in your body. For example, when we now go into fear with what's going on around us, fear now, unfortunately, is one of the lowest in megahertz as well in terms of the number. And it will then, unfortunately, drive maybe insomnia and other health challenges. And fear as anxiety, just depression, like can go into either way depending upon the person. What happens now, unfortunately, is that the immune system is now affected even more. So what happens is, say, for example, you have a real hit of fear, you feel that during the day, then you don't sleep well that night. The immune system now plummets for the next 3 days by something like 50%. Just by that thought, and just to bring this home, like there's been experiments, for example, where they get a young child, just before walking, and has never had an experience with a spider, and they put all spiders in the room, not venomous ones, of course, but they just put spiders in the room, and they'll crawl over the child and just brush it off, no problems. Then you can get another child, and then you put snakes in the room, of course, non-venomous, and they'll just crawl over and the child will just brush it off. There's no fear. And they say that the only real fear that some children are born with is fear of heights. But we know that most children aren't. They can get to the top of steps and go, I'm going down here. I'm a 2-year-old. I can do this. And of course, mum and dad race over and grab them. And we learn fear, and we mainly learn fear from our experiences, yes, but we learn fear from the environment in terms of what happens
from the people around us.
And the people around us as well. But I love what ancient medicine says. I think it gives more responsibility to us, meaning that we can change these things if we basically understand what they're about. And that is the cause of all disharmony in the Western world. Cause of all disharmony to any human being is the mistake of the intellect.
So for those of you who are listening to us now and are watching the replay later on, right, you will realize that I have been a very fortunate person because I have had the the privilege of knowing Dr. Wayne for the past coming to 3 years, and he has a wealth of knowledge about a wide array of topics, and part of the reason why we wanted to do this was because we wanted to bring value to the community. We wanted to bring value to people who are in the network marketing industry already. Or you might be doing very well, you might have some challenges. We hope to be able to bring value regardless. But at the same time, also to people who might not be in the industry, and considering whether you want to step into the industry. So, so from what you have been hearing so far, those of you who are online now, you're listening to us, and you know that Dr. Wayne has a wealth of knowledge. My role is simpler. My role is I'm always a perpetual student. I think one of my strengths is that I like to learn, and also at the same time, I kind of am able to assimilate information fast and then transmit to others as well. So that I think has always been something I like to do. So feel free to drop us a line, a comment, or you have something you want to make clear. You want us to touch on certain topics over the next few episodes. We are happy to do that as well. And of course, please check us out at we do have an audio only version of this podcast, which is at networkmarketerpodcast.com. So please check this out. This is the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel at the same time. So this is one of the things that we have been enjoying doing for the past few episodes. And I think today we have done something very, very different, which is going live, right, Doc?
Yes, yeah. And for anyone who is looking at, as BK just mentioned, anyone who's looking at moving into the industry, you have your skepticism, your apprehension. We totally get that. That's where we once stood as well. I know I was one of the biggest skeptics of network marketing. Big skeptic of it. And I often now use the phrase, once you get a product that is unique, and once you have something that you totally believe in, now we know, but this is no different than any business. Like you look at how many franchises have gone broke and they've never resumed. You look at any business that's taken money from people underhandedly. It doesn't matter what industry you go into, you will find negatives. If you want to look at a big negative in terms of corruption and unfortunately all this different stuff, look at governments, for example. So the thing is, no matter where you go, you can look for the negative and then you can look for the positive. And because myself and BK, I know you have as well, we've worked for people. We've been the person, worked for people. We've also been self-employed. And now that I'm doing network marketing, I truly believe network marketing is the cleanest industry. You can build legacy wealth. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your education. It doesn't matter anything that you would deem a normal business to be able to understand. Like if you have a niche business in shoes, you have to learn a lot about shoes, for example. If you have a niche business in being a barber, you've got to be able to do that extremely well. And the most important part, and this is why we've called it Candid Conversations about the network marketing entrepreneur, is the ability of someone to want to change. So when you can look at your beliefs, and so I was talking to someone yesterday, and I said, okay, I want you to just name some of your beliefs, and wrote down about 5 beliefs. And I said, well, 90% of them, we don't know which one, was programmed prior to the age of 7. They're not your beliefs. Your beliefs about money here was programmed prior to the age of 7. Your beliefs here about network marketing was programmed prior to the age of 7. Your belief that the only way, and just probably put this into some sort of context, especially in the industrial age, and remember we started this at the beginning by talking about the industrial, then the information age. Now we're moving into a new age, I believe, in terms of the entrepreneurial age. When we're in the industrial age, it was all about really just getting a job, because you really didn't have school. Like most, they were working at 14. But it was all about being employed, and then getting and being able to provide for your family. Then the information age then came in, where it was then, yes, still get a job, but then we had to still work hard, but then we had retirement in terms of superannuation for those like my age. That only happened halfway through my working age for not that I was in that because I was self-employed, but for people who are my age, that's literally what happened. Whereas today, it's mainly now looking at, okay, what can I do to allow me to grow my business, or to grow my business to a level whereby it provides everything that my family needs. And it's happening all around us today. It's happening at a very fast pace. And those people who really can grasp what we're suggesting here, and I'm sure probably this one's really interesting as well. Everything we are going to talk about, everything that we have talked about in the past, everyone listening knows. There's nothing new in this world. Every book that is now written in the past, every book that is now written in the future, we know. It's just a person's different way of relating their experiences to this world. And once again, the person who really gets what we just said before, in terms of, if you list down 10 of your beliefs, 9 of them, unfortunately, are not yours. And you look at them, you go, okay, which one of these would I want to change? Which one of these do I need to change? Which one of these is important for me to leverage in a way that's going to help me to move forward, to help with my health if you have a health challenge, or to help with your wealth if you have a wealth challenge, or if it's a relationship challenge with family and that, then they're the 3 major aspects of human existence, I believe, that we need to improve as much as we can. And the beautiful part about our industry, one of the things I learned, and I really didn't get it until probably about 18 months into the network marketing industry, is this business literally shows you where your weaknesses are and where you then need to go to improve. Guess what 90% of people do? They hit the ceiling and they go, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's too hard, because of their beliefs back here. So yeah, it's once we get all this, things can really move fast.
Yeah, I mean, what is happening around the world today, when human beings want to change, there's always two kinds of forces that can help to do that. One is a pull factor and the other one is a push factor, right? So unfortunately right now, what is happening in the current climate in the world, many of us might be pushed towards having to make a change. And
Yes.
of course, even myself, when I was growing up, I think our parents have always been, and no, it's no fault of theirs, right? It's just that was how it was. So my parents were always telling us, study hard, get a job, get a good stable income, and that's what they know, and therefore that's what they have been telling us. And so we have always been. So for myself, I've always been growing up with that kind of idea, study hard, get a good job, and you will never think about anything else until you expose yourself to new things, the new paradigm, right?
Yeah.
And so what Dr. Wei has been saying just now is that we are now literally being forced in a very fast manner to transition into a totally new age, which is the entrepreneur age, because I think a lot of realities have started to shine very brightly for a lot of people, that certain businesses, if they don't transition, they don't transform themselves, they are in trouble. In fact, a lot of them are already in trouble. Certain industries, if they don't transition, they are in trouble as well. And some of us, if we happen to be in working for some of these companies, then we are also in trouble, and then we are forced to really relook at it. But the good news is what Dr. Wei was saying just now, we have the capacity as human beings to have infinite abundance. And once we make that decision to change, and hopefully some of these topics that we're going to cover, we want to help to be able to help every one of us to make that decision to change. Now, of course, there will be challenges, but we are in this together.
Yes, yeah. And I'll give you an example of the push and pull. Like I enjoy surfing, and I had a really good surf this morning. So when you are unfamiliar with the waves, for example, so say now we want to get out. So I'm a longboard surfer on a mal, and one of the things with the mal, you can't duck dive very well. So there's two ways that you can now look at going out to where you need to get to on your spot. Okay. So one is, if you're not familiar with surfing, is you'll look at that, I want to go there. Okay. So you look at where you want to go to and you just go straight out. When you do that, all the waves are now breaking on you. Okay. They're just breaking on you. Now you can actually spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes trying to get through the waves. And this is the push that you're talking about. This is the push. And this is what's literally happening today in our workspace. We're being pushed into areas we've never known before. So this surfer doesn't know, he's just pushing, gets out there and he's exhausted. He's got to now wait for about 10 minutes before he catches his first wave. Now, what I look for, or the surfer who is aware, I look for the rip. Now, I'm not saying people who don't know how to swim don't do this, but I look for the rip. And the rip basically, say if I want to go to there, the rip might be way over here, and I just shoot paddles and I get around the surf, no white water hits me, and I just go, yep, I'm here now. So that's now, I'm using the rip to pull me to where I want to get to. And this is now, if we look at the emotions in terms of, if we are now in a negative state and we are reacting to those emotions, remembering it's not your fault, it's just where you are, admit that, take responsibility for that. Really important. If you don't take responsibility for that and you blame others, you will never move forward. Once you take responsibility for that, then what happens then is you'll now be pulled to where you want to get to. You're no longer pushing, okay? And then from there, those people who are now moving forward and they understand this in a positive way, their genes are now expressing themselves in a positive way. They're actually finding answers that you've never come across before. For example, those people listening, you might want to do a podcast. You might want to do a YouTube channel. Like, don't think small. Think, okay, what can we do? And you might like to start like we did. I don't know if we really want to go live just yet. Let's just do a few things to start with. And this is real. This is like it's live. This is our first ever live together, and it's fantastic. And so it's push or pull, as BK mentioned. And for those who really understand this emotional stuff that we're putting forward to you, and remembering nothing's new, this is all old hat, but it's hopefully what we'll share with you is wisdom that will allow you to move forward in your life. So I'd rather be pulled and allow a rip to take me to where I want to get to, and just then I'm right to go. Yeah, a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. As an aside, I mean, just to add on to what Dr. Wayne was talking about, right? Some of the listeners might be wondering, all this talk about genes. Sometimes people kind of have a misconception that our genes are fixed and we cannot change them. So as an interesting snippet of information for everyone, actually only 3 to 5% of our genes are hard-coded. Hard-coded in the sense that the shape of our nose, the shape of our ears, our hair color, our eye colors, those are the things that are kind of like hard-coded. You can't change them because they came from our parents, and that's how you will end up looking, right? But the other 95% can be influenced by the food we eat, the environment we are in, even the kind of habits we keep, whether we are in a high stress environment or not a high stress environment. So it might sound a bit unusual to some of you if you've not encountered it before, but we literally can affect our own mind space, our own body space by the things that we do, So Dr. Wayne always like to say that the most important distance is the 6 inches between our ears. And that is literally what can determine how we navigate the future from now on. So the things we do can change our genes, can impact our genes in a positive way and a negative way, unfortunately. But the things that we decide today in terms of, are we going to say that, okay, we're going to navigate the future that is already now present in front of us, right? The changing landscape of employment and income and making money. All those things are already here. If we make a decision, we can find a way to navigate it in a better way, right? Just like what he said about surfing as well.
And a lot of people then ask, how do I do that? So I'll give one snippet. There's many different ways of not going down the negative aspect, which can then influence genes. And if anyone wants to really, and you haven't come across this and you're interested in it, I think Bruce Lipton would be the best person to go and listen to. He was one of the first to prove to the Western world that you can actually get a gene and put in a different environment, and you can actually change that gene to express itself differently. Ancient medicine is always ancient medicine is just going back to what you're talking about there with regards to genes being fixed and otherwise. The concept years ago with Western medicine was this hereditary pathway. Ancient medicine has never said hereditary pathways are real, because ancient medicine has always said that the environment determines your outcome. So the environment, as you said before, BK, could be what we eat and drink and stresses and that. But the major thing is it's what the mistake of the intellect, because that determines what we eat and drink. It determines our perception of stress. It determines where we live. It determines whether we use chemicals or sprays, or we use makeup on our faces that are full of chemicals. And they actually say now that 75% of the chemicals that come into the human body are actually in our own home, which is interesting. We can't get away from chemicals today, unfortunately. So Bruce Lipton then basically showed that this genetic expression is very real in terms of what you do here can have a positive or negative outcome here. And getting back to ancient medicine, they've always said the environment will now actually has the impact of on our physical body and mind positively or negatively. Western medicine has now called it epigenetics. For those people who want to look up that word, epigenetics, epi means above, there's something programming our genes, which is a really fancy way of saying what ancient medicine has always said. And the phenomena, like I've been in this industry, the health industry for over 30 years. And one of the things that I had to do way back was determine what is real. And this is the same as the network marketer now. You have to determine that this industry is for you and if this is real. Now, what do I mean by that? Real. So to me, what it meant was that I didn't want to be telling people X, Y, or Z and finding out 10 to 15, 20 years that it was wrong. Now, did I make, sometimes I might have made mistakes in terms of concepts because I didn't understand ancient medicine way back here. Yeah, granted, totally admit that. And as a network marketer, even now, there might be things that, there's things that we'll do, but the beautiful part about mistakes is you'll learn from them. And we've talked about this in prior podcasts, prior sessions. What do we call them?
Episodes.
Episodes, thank you. Prior episodes, whereby we move forward, play it forward with our mistakes. So we move forward with our mistakes. So with regards to the, sorry, now I've lost my concept. Where was I then, BK?
You want to make sure that it is real.
Real, that's right. Thank you. Yeah. So I had to find something that was real to me that wasn't allowing change to influence or to actually suggest that what I've said back here is now wrong. And that's why I really went into ancient medicine. I studied the traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic. I even went to India and I went through all different parts of Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, America, learning all these different skills and ancient medicine modalities and studied with some of the best. And what I found is the more that I stayed with their principles, the more Western medicine is actually proving it today. So nothing has changed. And this is not clinical studies, and this is not all the stuff that people are talking about today. This is just observational things that have been happening for thousands of years. And getting back to our major theme here today, and once again, the reason I love it is because everything hinges on this phrase: the cause of all disharmony is the mistake of the intellect. And once we get that and we take full responsibility for that, then we can become the network marketing entrepreneur that we really want to become.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So we are very happy to be able to have these weekly episodes, and we have candid conversations like now. Sometimes we will blunder, sometimes we will make mistakes, but I think our intention has always been we're going to be as candid as possible. The industry is not perfect. There are issues, but like what Dr. Wayne was talking about just now, if you look at any industry with an open mind, you will be able to find the good, the bad, and of course the ugly about it. It is not unique to our industry, but we have found what we think is probably one of the cleanest industries around, and it is an industry that's perfectly suited to navigate the entrepreneurial age that we are entering into now, although we may have been pushed into it, right? But that is something there. And so with that, we really want to thank you for coming online with us. And if you're watching the replay as well, please feel free to comment, leave a question, and tell us what are the things you want us to talk about in future episodes. I'm sure you can tell by now, Dr. Wayne has a wealth of knowledge that we can really tap into and learn from. Just also do check us out at networkmarketerpodcast.com if you prefer the audio version, right? So how would you like to end off today, Dr. Wayne?
Sorry?
How would you like to end it off today?
Yeah, probably. I remember back in 2000 and something reading a book by, I just can't remember his name right now, but the title was The Next $1 Trillion Industry. And Filzer, or something like that, Paul Filzer, I think it was.
Yeah.
And back then, of course, it wasn't a $1 trillion industry. And today it is now a $3 to $4 trillion industry. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because what I did back then, I studied the book. I just didn't read it. I studied that book. And the same with my first book I ever read, and please don't judge me on this. My first book I ever read, I was 24. That's the bit that don't judge me on, okay? I never read a book until I was about 24, somewhere there. But the first book I ever read was Think and Grow Rich. And I didn't read that book, I studied that book. And I made notes and I went back over it, and we didn't have audibles or anything like that. I read it and read it and read it. The same with the next $1 trillion industry in terms of the wellness industry. I studied that book and allowed the clinic to get to one of the largest naturopathic clinics in Australia at its peak. And I believe that this industry that we're in now, the network marketing industry, will be a $1 trillion industry in USD. I think it's already there in AUD. But that's because of just the way the Australian dollar is at present. But yeah, this will be a $1 trillion industry, and we just want to really help those network marketers become the entrepreneur that we know is deep in their heart.
So with that, we thank you for joining us, and join us next week for another candid conversation about the network marketing entrepreneur. We hope to bring value and help you to grow in your journey together. And we are all on the journey together as well. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, BK. Thanks, everyone.